of marijuana, you will get 12,000 positions. It is one of the most controversial topics of our time, and at the same time, one of the most important as well. We're talking about that this morning with our guests, these folks I'd like to introduce you to. I'd like to introduce you first to Sylvester Gould. Many of you know Sylvester Gould. He's the senior advisor for the Responsible Ohio campaign. That's the group that is represented here today. And I'd also like to introduce you to Ian James. Mr. James is the executive director of that same organization. Welcome.
Thanks for having us on.
Glad to have you guys on this morning.
And they want a monopoly on medical marijuana, which is completely unconstitutional and illegal and unlawful.
Marijuana in the state of Ohio.
Yeah, we've seen what's happening across the country. We've seen that other states have legalization, and that's they've really gone the route of medical marijuana to make sure that they have the compassionate care that marijuana provides for folks that have cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease,
right.
PTSD, epilepsy, sickle cell anemia. There are a lot of different chronic illnesses that can be addressed with medical marijuana.
Multiple sclerosis.
Multiple sclerosis. Yeah. I mean, Montel Williams is such a great advocate for medical marijuana and multiple sclerosis. And as we watch this come from the west to the east, we're looking at Ohio and we're saying, why don't we have this here? And then when we look at the State House, the reality became very clear to us that for 18 years we waited for the State House to pass a medical marijuana bill. It was actually introduced every General Assembly by Representative Bob Hagan from Youngstown. And Bobby is a good friend, and he, every 2 years would get out there and put it back in the legislative process and try to get it passed and get one hearing and it would die.
So is the focus of your campaign just on medical marijuana?
No,
or is it a legalization of marijuana generally?
It's a legalization of marijuana. What we wanted to do was make sure we legalize medical marijuana for the compassionate care of the chronically ill, but we also allow for personal adult use. What we see in other states was when they start with medicinal, all of a sudden you got a lot of folks going upstairs to see Dr. Feelgood and coming downstairs to the doctor's dispensary system, and they're feigning illness. They're saying, I've got a bad knee, and they're pretending like
but
that.
Is that a reason to legalize?
That's speculation, James. You're not allowed to play doctor.
Segregate
Sure.
the medicinal use conversation for a bit right now.
Yeah.
Is that a reason to legalize marijuana?
Well, I think it is, because one of the reality here is I can call someone today, I can call, email, text, and I can have marijuana delivered to the door of Channel 13 in 15 minutes. I can get marijuana to the door of Channel 13 faster than I can get a pizza.
And I could say the same thing about heroin. I could say the same thing about crack. But there's
No, you can't. That is not a legal comparison. That's like trying to say an apple is an orange and an orange is an apple.
But your premise is that one of the reasons for legalizing is the fact that it's easily accessible. That's what I thought I heard you say. Did I misunderstand?
Not only is it legal, it's easily accessible, but there are thousands of people that are consuming it. We have people that are consuming it. It's very well used.
So you mean you get to see the profits of thousands of people that use it, and you want to corner the market and say only you get the rights to distribute medical marijuana?
Legalize it, we need to control it, and then we need to tax it.
Oh, control and tax.
The job creation. Let's talk about 25,000 jobs. Let's talk about the economic impact. $6 billion.
Okay, I'm going to take a deep breath here, and I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
Let's talk about what that is to Lucas County, here in Northwest Ohio. $7 million to this county. No, $17 million to the county. $7 million to the city of Toledo. $7 million to the county. $3 million to the other entities.
Well, what about the moral? What about? And I hate to use the word moral. I hate that. I do, but it's the best word I have right now.
So you promised to pay the city of Toledo and Lucas County $17 million for exclusive rights to be the only sole profiting company off millions of people who would like to just be able to grow their own God-given plant in their backyard for free.
Look, I'm a preacher's kid, so I'm a PK. And when we start
Preacher's kid.
and morality,
That's why I hated to use that word, because I didn't take it there.
Genesis 1:11, God gives you all seed-bearing plants. Moving forward. Next.
We've got a decriminalized state of Ohio. on marijuana. A lot of folks think, well,
There you go. Decriminalize.
If you're picked up for a joint or you have just a little bit of marijuana on you, it's just a citation. The American Bar Association looks at this and says, hey, in Ohio, you have 300 collateral consequences for marijuana use right now. Yeah, you get a $150 fine, but they take away your driver's license. Yeah, they take away your driver's license. They also prohibit you for having a state license for mortgage, public housing. They take away the ability for people to have.
But isn't that the issue perhaps?
That's
Perhaps there is something that happens that moderates the penalties a little differently. Listen, here's my concern.
You can't moderate the penalties without. I mean, you've already decriminalized. The way to moderate the penalties is to legalize it and to start to say, look, we've got to stop doing what we're doing, because in Ohio, in Allen County, if you're black, you're 13 times more likely than white folks to get arrested for marijuana.
What's race got to do with it? Get race away from marijuana. If you're arrested for marijuana, it's because politicians make money off it.
It tells about the people who
Had trouble.
had some kind of
Had trouble that week. Wasn't a good week for them.
Many of these offenses are minor marijuana offenders.
Exactly. Decriminalize it completely. It's a plant for medicinal purposes.
Because that has a direct impact upon
It has its recreational purposes. It has its industrial purposes. Clothes, rope, oil.
clean up anyone who had an offense prior to the passage of the amendment. They will be given an opportunity to get their record expunged. And going back to what Ian said, it keeps you from having a barber's license. It keeps you from getting a loan.
Well, and all of those things are true, but you know what? I have real trouble with deciding that the way to ensure equality for black folk is to legalize marijuana. The same statistics that you...
I can't even believe you're trying to use race. It's disgusting.
Black folks and marijuana, I could quote...
It is the reason people like you continue to breed racism by keeping it a topic in the media.
I struggle with that as a reason.
But here's the problem. You have such a... You've got people that are consuming marijuana, right? They're consuming it, and there are lawyers, there are doctors, there are judges, there are teachers, there are people of all walks of life. Right? When I was in the church, I always looked at the pews because the pews are full of sinners. There are people that consume marijuana just as they do alcohol, and that's why we're saying we should legalize marijuana. We should treat it as we do alcohol. If you're 21 and older, you should have the right to consume it. You should have the right to, as an adult, and to possess it. And we should also just realize that we're spending $120 million a year in Ohio to enforce marijuana prohibition. That's failure we're funding. And we could better use that money to fund the things that you were just talking about, the heroin addiction, treatment services for...
Now you're getting somewhere. I'll agree with you on that, James.
Drugs. Marijuana, again, is being consumed. The folks in the black community are being impacted more by marijuana.
Keep race out of it, James. It's got nothing to do with the black community. It's got to do with crooked politicians keeping the marijuana plant criminalized so they can keep the justice system going.
Care for themselves and their families. That's why
But you know what, I'm going to say this.
It creates one more court case for one more bar attorney to put in front of one more judge, to put in front of one more probation officer, to put in one more jail cell.
On African Americans, there are far more substantial issues out here.
There is.
African Americans that would.
How about the fact that you are imprisoning black African Americans to make money off them? Talk about that. Talk about the business of incarcerating people.
Greatly enforce their housing laws or
housing. Yes, you want to house them in prisons.
All of those kinds of things, and so to say that we need to legalize marijuana, and this doesn't, I mean, I want people to know, and I want you to know, my position today has nothing to do, it should not be reflective of what my individual position is on this issue. I'm just simply saying that, it seems very convenient to say that we need to do this because black
It's not going
folks
to
are
go away,
not.
Donnie.
And that's very wrong. It's absolutely wrong to say we need to do this to liberate black community. This is disgusting for Responsible Ohio to reach out to play the race card now.
It is. If you're black, you're 4 times more likely than white folks to get arrested for marijuana in Ohio, even though the consumption rate is the same. And that's why...
This is just disgusting. It's just the most... There is absolutely no integrity to this journalism. None whatsoever. To play the race card. It's race baiting.
Reality that underserved and minority communities are impacted more greatly with marijuana laws than they are in a lot of other laws. Now, the reality also is that 600 churches, we talk about morality, 600 churches just yesterday, just this week rather, came out and said, we want to see an end to the war on drugs because it's affecting our communities.
You have not mentioned one time anybody being able to grow the plant in their backyard for their own medicinal purposes, free of government taxation. You're not even concerned about that. So for you to even talk about church and have the concern for people...
Get that second chance to clean up their license, to clean up their records so they can work, so they can be part of the society.
So let's talk about then the Fresh Start Act. Is this, because you and I can talk about this other piece for a very long time, and you and I certainly will, because he has to go home, but you live here, so you and I will certainly talk about this more. But let's talk about the Fresh Start Act and how it plays into the legalization of marijuana.
Well, the best information that
It creates a monopoly.
Has approved it. It's now before the ballot board. And then we would be allowed to go out and raise 97,000 signatures and get it on the ballot for November of 2016.
Yeah, we'll get the signatures this summer. We'll turn them into the Secretary of State. The state will then have, the legislature will then have 4 months to either pass the issue or do nothing. If they do nothing, then we'll get another 92,000 ballot signatures and we'll put the issue before the voters in November 2016.
Responsible Ohio has already been reported for fraudulent signatures by their collectors.
Realization that we need to change the system.
Yeah, I want to ask you when we come back.
And why is 13 Action News not reporting the investigation by the Columbus Dispatch into the fraudulent signatures collected by Responsible Ohio, trying to get the monopoly bill to pass?
Please go nowhere. Hey there, welcome back to Bridges. If you were with us the first segment, you know that we're talking about the legalization of marijuana. We're talking to 2 folks who are representing Responsible Ohio, the Responsible Ohio campaign. That would be Ian James, who's its executive director, and Sylvester Gould, a local guy many of you know, who is their senior advisor. So we clearly have some questions that we're not going to solve today. But so I'd like to move on just so that everybody has a good sense of how this process is moving forward. What happens if how close are you, first of all, again, to getting this on the ballot?
We filed about 700,000 signatures
fraudulently.
They're going through the process of review right now at the Board of Elections. We'll know probably in the next couple of weeks where we stand. We're very confident we'll be on the ballot.
And what exactly is the question on the ballot?
So the question on the ballot will be, do you want to legalize the medicinal use of marijuana for the chronically ill and for personal use for those who are 21 and older.
21 and older. And that, I should say to folks, the 21 and older really does address some of the scientific concerns about...
Who gets the dispensary rights?
Under 21.
Right.
That's what you're staying away from. Only 10 people, 10 selected properties
to do any reconstruction
get the exclusive rights to dispense the cannabis throughout the rest of the state. Everybody else will be treated as a criminal.
So everybody says yes, and then what happens?
So everybody still wins. The judges get to prosecute you and make money, and 10 lucky individuals get to make money too.
Medical use, 60% for personal use, so it looks like that we're headed to winning this, but there's still a lot of work to do. And then we have to go to the legislature. We have to work through a process of the enabling legislation. It sets up a marijuana control commission, just like we have for the Division of Liquor Control. There is a 3-tier system that's established for this. The growing is Tier 1, the testing is Tier 2, and then Tier 3 is going to be the medical marijuana dispensaries, the manufacturers, and the retail component of that.
So will anybody? So this
You cannot manufacture marijuana.
An economy, a marijuana.
You can only grow it.
Industry. Thank you. Let me ask some really basic questions here. Anybody will be allowed to, once they pass and receive the licensure, would be able to open a marijuana farm? Is that?
There are 10. We do what other states have done. There are 23 states that have marijuana legalized now for
Bingo.
marijuana.
Yeah.
10 of them actually have 10 or fewer licenses.
Bingo.
We start with 10 to allow the state to best regulate the system. The 10 licenses are let. They have to compete against each other. They cannot collude.
Bingo.
They also then have to meet the demand of the medical marijuana community. So if patients don't get the
Bingo.
right strain, the state
Monopoly.
You've got to grow this marijuana. If you don't, or
Anybody that votes for a monopoly votes against the Constitution and their
the
freedoms.
state adds licenses until demand can be met. So you've got the 10.
This man cannot promote this. No special titles. This is a direct violation of the Constitution. Article 1, Section 10. Look it up for yourself. No special titles will ever be allowed to be issued by a United States government.
I will be able to grow it in my
If you're
backyard.
over 21, I'm not sure that's the case, but if you're over 21 and you,
I like you so much
see,
more
I'm coming
now.
back now, right? Those that are over 21 can grow marijuana at home. They just have to make sure that they're securing the plants away from anybody who's under 21. So think if you've got a
Sure.
greenhouse out
You
back,
can go ahead and grow your 4 plants, but still only 10 lucky individuals in Ohio get to sell it to the rest of those who don't feel like growing it. They just want to buy it.
There will be an award of per 10,000 residents, one store. So conceivably, Toledo could
Oh,
have 29
by cessence.
stores,
There you
retail
go.
stores. That's obviously an incentive, a business incentive for some. And we're talking about the creation of those jobs to, number one, build those farms. We're talking about the ability to own and operate, to bring those people out of the shadows who want to be involved in the industry and into the light.
So are there components of the legislation that somehow then will use the profits or some percentage of the profits to help with addiction issues?
Yes, actually,
or-
with the amendment, it requires that the money goes to a state marijuana fund.
What money?
The marijuana, they need money this comes
The
from the
tax or
taxation.
the-
The
yeah.
flat tax. There's a 15% flat tax on the wholesale. There's a 5% on the retail, and that money goes into a state fund for 1 month. It can't stay there. It has to be swept out of that.
Oh,
and goes
so a
80%
nice little
of that
legitimate laundering
goes
program.
to
10 nice little facilities, one bank account. The money goes in and goes right back out to selected organizations and nonprofit groups. Come on, get out of here, James.
Does it concern either one of you that the science is still a little shaky on this? That there really is not solid science that says this is okay to do?
You know, Donnie, I think there's very solid science. We've got an executive summary, and let me tell you the people that are involved with this who
But there's
have
not
looked at the
solid-
science. Yes,
there's
they've
not
looked at the
solid
science.
science.
If you talk to Michael Thomas, who's the former chair of the board of governors of the Cuyahoga County Community Mental Health Board, it's solid science. If you talk to John Russo, professor
Solid
emeritus,
science that says
solid
what?
science.
That there's no impact
Well,
on... No, there's not.
Let me address that. Actually, there is. The
James, you're not a doctor.
Has looked at marijuana and does find that it has a benefit. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, a CNN contributor and neurosurgeon, who was for years an opponent of marijuana, has come around and said, you know what? I was wrong on this. It does have an impact. And when you talk to
Let me change
talk to the patients who actually need that, like my mother-in-law, who is a cancer survivor, and they see that they have to go through chemotherapy and they have pain and suffering, that the medical marijuana would benefit them. Or you see Addison Benton, who's 3 years old, who has 1,000 epileptic seizures a day, but couldn't get medical marijuana here in Ohio because of her zip code, moves to Colorado,
And is able to do it. Absolutely right. I know that story. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the science when it comes to pain reduction. There is science
It's
out
not
there
just
that
pain
talks
reduction,
about
right?
pain
It's
reduction.
also
seizure
epilepsy.
reduction.
That's
I
right.
understand that. But there's also science out there that says that there's a strong possibility that pre-use, early use of marijuana will encourage some forms of mental illness.
Science is not a possibility. Science is fact, and that is propaganda.
It's not true.
Propaganda.
The World Health Organization has actually said it's not.
All I am saying
21 years and older. Adult use, personal use.
And I will give you that because it.
And that's fair game. I mean, it's no different than alcohol. Look at the alcohol. How many DUIs kill people every day?
Later, the consequences are less significant.
Rally at the bars. That's a pattern of corrupt activity.
Still here and there, except for
10 citizens all aboard getting drunk and then getting in their vehicles and becoming a danger to public health and safety.
You are prohibited
But hey,
as doctors.
we'll just look the other way, right?
So until we legalize it, we can't have the kind of research that you're talking about. But when you have
You are right about that, James.
doctors who actually deal with this in a professional setting say we want the ability to recommend medical marijuana because it works, I will trust that doctor.
And but it works on very specific outcomes. I mean, it works on seizure disorders. It works on pain, and those things are so important. And glaucoma, those things are so
Alzheimer's,
important.
Parkinson's disease, post-traumatic stress disorder for our veterans.
For more solid information on those, but there is some really good.
Okay, well, this is all I need about your rhetoric, I guess. You know, I mean.
My question is really just a simple one, honestly, and this is one of those days where we just don't have enough time. But the concern that I pose to you is, you know, do we know enough to be encouraging this full-scale use?
The state of California now for 15 years.
Do we know enough? That's
how much more do you need to know?
Yes, we do. Because here's
Genesis 1:11 takes it back. I give you all seed-bearing plants on this
legalizing it. They're consuming it right now today. We're spending $120 million a year to stop a failed marijuana prohibition. It's better to regulate it so that we know who's going to get it. Because let's face it.
Regulate it is nothing. You're a communist if you think you're going to regulate and control freedom. You're a communist if you think you're going to regulate and control health care.
You need to make sure that you're regulating it.
They're taxes. Your taxes. Who are you? You work for the crown.
And what happened was this.
Are you part of the British nobility?
Killing each other to get alcohol. We had crime running rampant. If we regulate marijuana, we reduce crime.
You're a Nazi.
Reduce the use by those underage.
And you should be held for treasonous crimes against the Constitution and the United States government.
Bring it into the public use for the public good. I think that's worth it.
all right. Well,
I think you're being paid for the 10 monopoly.
I will give you guys the last word on this.
Well, you know, this is really about what Ohio needs to look at is, do we want to have marijuana legalization go past us and then get surrounded like we were when it came to casinos? Because when we do that, we go from a first-in-flight operation where we were with the Wright brothers to being the last to land. We have Michigan with medical marijuana. We have Pennsylvania getting ready to have medical marijuana. We have Kentucky that has medical marijuana.
And I don't think anybody is challenging the idea of medical marijuana. It's beyond medical marijuana.
This is not a multiple choice question. This is a question of, do you want to end marijuana prohibition or do you not? Do you want to have legalization?
It is when you try to put inside the legal language 10 limited licenses. That is a monopoly. That is illegal. That is unconstitutional. And that is tyrant treason behavior.
The World Health Organization says it's not the case, that actually we believe that the drug dealers are the gateway because they're the ones that say, hey kid, I've got this marijuana and I've got some pills for you as well.
All right. Well, thank you very, very much. Responsible Ohio. There's the.
Do not vote yes for Responsible Ohio. They vote for and push and support 10 lucky winners. And I think we've seen enough of that, Ohio.